everybody, how's it going? Welcome to SMG Viewers Comments, my weekly show where I try and answer your comments and questions to the best of my ability. Can you believe it? We're already up to episode number 170. Holy smokes, this has gone way beyond anything I could have ever imagined happening. I'm so glad so many of you have come along with me on this incredible ride. Anyway, let's get right to it.
I had a Bajera 333XL amp head and I loved it in the live shows. When I went into the studio, the engineer recommended using his Kemper Profiler Amp and let me pick the amp simulation. Good case of being honest to yourself. Sometimes your own gear might not be the best gear just because you paid for it. The recording ended up great and I don't regret it.
Now, I picked this comment or question or suggestion or whatever the hell you want to call it for this one particular reason. I don't doubt he got a good sound. As far as modeling amps go, if you're not using a hybrid system, if you're using purely digital, yeah, the Kemper's kind of hard to beat. I do like that. Whether it's good or as a real amp or not remains to be seen. You can always check out my video where I shot the two out. Anyway, my point being here is this. I'm not sure if that amp had anything wrong with it or the engineer just didn't know what the hell he was doing. Recording metal tone isn't easy. There's a lot of steps involved and a lot of things that have to go right in order to get a great tone. The one thing the Kemper's allowed people who own studios to do is to shortcut that whole learning process and just use somebody else's work on their own. Now, you can debate the ethics on that, that's fine. I'm not going to discuss that at this point, but I'm just wondering if that guy's skills were up to snuff, because I've definitely heard some good things about the Bajera thing. Maybe this guy didn't actually know how to record a metal tone. Or maybe he did and the Bajera sucked. I don't know. So I want to hear from you guys what you think the situation is there. And the second thing I want to know is if you guys want to see that amp on Fearless Gear Reviews, because my Patreon's almost completely funded for monthly Fearless Gear Reviews. I'm just about at that mark. As soon as we do that, that's, I think, the first thing I want to get and put that to the test and see if it really is good or not. Because the jury's out on the Bajera stuff. I want to know for one, and I'm sure a lot of you guys do too as well. Is it really worth having?
Glenn, how do you feel about me withholding some songs/riffs from my band because I feel like some of my ideas just can't be developed with the current status of the band? Be it others aren't into that specific genre or can't sing to that style of song I wrote. That being said, they are willing to play my ideas. I just don't want to waste some potentially good ideas that don't come to the fruition I desire. Thanks for your time. Glad to see you're doing well. Thanks for the videos. Fuck you, Glenn. P.S. Jesus, upon reread, I sound like a fucking glam metal diva.
Yes, Bradley, you do sound like a glam metal idea. Withhold your ideas because the guys in your band aren't up to snuff. Wow. Talk about an overinflated sense of self-worth. Holy shit, man. You know what? Throw the ideas out there, see what happens. I've seen so many musicians fuck themselves this way. Oh, well, you know, I'll do that later, or we're gonna do this great idea after we do some bullshit. Case in point was a band I did a music video for a few years ago. I got some funding and I wanted to do this crazy ass video, and they didn't want to do the song that probably would have been the hit. They wanted to do the other song and said, oh, we'll use the hit song for the video after the fact. And well, you know, hey, turns out the video wasn't the greatest idea, but it probably, for that song anyway, because there was no chorus. But if you go back and look at it, you know, we had a lot of fun. It probably would have worked with the catchier song. Point being is when opportunity is staring you in your face, take it. It might not come to you in the form that you want. It might not be exactly as you plan things, but when it happens, do it. So what if the guys in your band aren't particularly up to what you think they should be? Chances are you're never going to find that band. You know, I've had a friend of mine say this in a band one time. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a bunch of guys who are exactly into the same kind of music I'm into, and we're going to make something awesome. Of course, that never happened. Because you're never going to find exactly the right people or who see music with your particular vision. The best you can hope for is get together in a room with a bunch of other guys, throw ideas at each other, work off each other, and then come up with your own sound. Again, this all reminds me of something I heard way back in the early 90s. You know, there was this band playing in Toronto where, you know, we were talking to the bass player and he's like, well, the singer's okay, but, you know, I think we should be better. And the drummer's okay, but, you know, I wish we had a better drummer and I wish we had a better guitar player. And we're like, okay, so what? The only person who's decent in this band is you?
Hey Glenn, so I live in a very closed-off environment and my financial and social situation doesn't really allow me to follow my dream just yet. So I wanted to ask you this, is music really a young man's or a woman's game? If I start making at something like 35 or 40, I'm 23 at the moment, will I still be able to make it? Fuck you Glenn and greetings from Pakistan.
Wow, you know what? I think you're the first Pakistani fan we've had write us. Thank you so much. It's so cool hearing from you guys from all over the world and places, you know, not really known for their huge metal scenes. I know something cool is happening in India. Hopefully something cool is happening in Pakistan as well. The question is, how old is too old? Well, here's the thing. Things didn't start happening for me till I was 44. So you just don't know when it's going to happen. I know Les Claypool was like in his late 30s or early 40s when Primus broke. I had a chat with Rob Chapman there a couple years ago, and, you know, Dorje would, you know, had a hit. He's like, I'm 40 years old and I've got a hit record. What's that all about? So, you know, the trick is keep going. You know, chances are you're going to develop an amazing skill set. Even if you don't quote unquote make it, you know what? It's a hell of a ride and a hell of a way to go through life. I've had a 20-year career making records, and I've never regretted it for a second, except for one record.
Have you heard that YouTube doesn't like channels with Patreon backing because they have less ads income? Alleged that they don't recommend these channels anymore, thus lesser new viewers. Check it over here.
Well, you know what? I put a link to my Patreon in last week's episode, and it got like about a third of the views that the previous viewers' comments got. So, you know what? There might be, you know, some truth to that line of thinking, so I won't put a link to my Patreon in this week's episode. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. The other thing was I got some feedback from you guys last week about the whole YouTube channel sponsorship, and a few of you guys were cool with it. A bunch of you guys were like, I am not giving YouTube my money. You know, they've always screwed you guys over enough. And that, I think that's a really good point. And if I can get anybody's attention at YouTube, I'm going to tell them, look, you guys have a serious PR problem because people don't trust you. They're afraid you're going to yank their money. They're going to take the money away from the creators, and you guys are just going to pocket it because you've done all these sneaky and underhanded things over the last couple of years with the whole demonetization bullshit. Anyway, those of you guys who joined my Spend a Buck Give a Fuck campaign, thank you so much. You guys rock. And stay tuned. Like I said, hopefully we're going to have monthly funding for Fearless Gear Reviews, and I think that's going to be really freaking awesome. Anyway, yes, by the way, and you guys will be able to take part in polls to see what comes up on the next Fearless Gear Reviews, so bear that in mind. Not going to pull a link to my Patreon in this episode. It's just patreon.com/SMG. We'll put it in the title screen below there. Hopefully my editor sees this and puts a great big flashing title here at the bottom of the screen. And yeah, you guys can check that out. Just I won't link to it because hopefully we'll get more traffic that way. Anyway. Next question.
Glenn, stop asking for our permission to make videos. You're always well-spoken for and well-informed and entertaining. Should I make a video on this? The answer is always yes. Fuck you, Glenn.
Actually, the reason I ask those questions, sometimes I'm just not sure. I do appreciate the vote of confidence there, but the truth is I do like hearing from you guys. I try and read almost every single comment I get, and that's how I get viewers' comments, as I scan through all the comments and pick and choose what I think is going to make an interesting part of the show. So yes, your voice does matter, and yes, I try and engage you guys as much as I can. So when you leave comments, if I think you got something cool to say, I might put it on the show, or I might just respond in the comments. I am very involved with that. So yeah, leave a comment. I just might comment back. Thanks again.
I love your philosophy as a producer. Actually get great performances. Joey Sturgis.
Oh, come on. That's not nice. I'll say this about the records Joey does. I'm not a particular fan of them, but I do appreciate the amount of work he puts into them. I know he works his ass off on the records that he does. He does a tremendous amount of behind the scenes work and quote unquote fixing it in the mix, which is just a completely different philosophy of how I do things. Keep this in mind though, Joey's records sell, mine really don't. So, you know, there is that. Anyway, I've known Joey for a very, very long time. We met on the the Andy Sneap board way back in the mid-2000s. And, you know, I've got to hang out with him numerous times. And, you know, he's just a really cool dude. I like his philosophy. I like a lot of his software plugins, and the whole Nail the Mix thing's really cool as well. So, good dude. Like I said, just because we're differ on certain things philosophically doesn't mean you can't be friends and you can't share opinions.
Shut up and go practice your solo face. Sounds like a shirt, LOL.
Hey, Christian, you know what? That sounds like a great idea. In fact, I'm going to make this shirt, Shut Up and Practice Your Solo Face, available for this week and this week only. So if you want to get your hands on it, grab it now because it's only going to be here until next Friday. Thanks for the suggestion. Hope you like it.
Hey Glenn, love your videos. Was wondering if you'd ever come across any blind musicians or work with any other visually impaired engineers. I lost my sight about 3 years ago and picked up the guitar to express my frustrations and fell in love with it. I'm currently trying to teach myself recording and production as Reaper, as my DAW, as well as Logic Pro. Sometimes they're both fairly accessible using the screen reading software. Also wondering what your preferences between the two. I currently prefer Reaper. Okay,
cool question. You know what? Nobody's really hit me with this yet. The answer is yes. In my early college days, my first year of college, 1989 and 90, that school year, I do remember a recording student who was visually impaired. And this is back in the analog days, so we had like Braille put on the board and the tape deck, that kind of thing, so he could work in there and learn. And I've never really, I don't know whatever happened to him. I hope he went somewhere with it. The philosophy was, you know, if you lose one sense, your other senses become much more highly tuned. So I'm wondering if the guy turned into like this incredible sound engineer. Not sure whatever happened. Seemed like a really cool dude. Seemed like a good idea to get into recording at that time. And that's the thing. I've always wondered, you know, for the visually impaired, how hard is it to work with software? I don't know anything about that whole end of things. I mean, like once we went from analog to digital, you know, everything went on a screen. So I can't even begin to imagine how challenging that would be. That being said, yeah, Reaper's awesome.
Hey Glenn, I'm a guitarist who's looking to buy his very first 4x12 guitar cabinet, but not quite sure which one to get. What's the cheapest, best cabinet you'd recommend?
I've said it a million times, Harley Benton. I've had the 1x12 and the 2x12. They're both fantastic. If you want a 4x12, you can probably get that. If you're based in Europe, shouldn't be a big deal. Might cost you a little more to get it shipped to the States if you're US based. Link in the description, like usual. Check out the Harley Benton cabs because they're loaded with real Celestion vintage 30s, and you absolutely cannot go wrong with those. Go check it out.
I've been following your channel for years. It's consistently awesome, and I really learned a lot from you. Thanks, man.
Well, thank you very much, Matthew Goldsworthy. I really appreciate hearing from you guys, especially you guys who've been around for quite some time. It's always great to hear from you guys. And it's great to hear from you new guys as well. And if you haven't hit the subscribe button, please do. It really helps me out a lot.
I know we're in here it does, but have you do contribute to songwriting with bands while they're in your studio?
Absolutely. You know, if something's lacking in a song, or, you know, something's just not lining up or something seems off, yes, I'll make suggestions. I'll make suggestions all the time. I'll make little arrangement suggestions. You Woods of Ypres fans, if you listen to Meeting Place and Time, you know, that big stop in the beginning there with the guitars, you know, just stop and there's that big with the drums. Yeah, that was my idea. Originally, those guitars just kept sustaining and whatnot. I thought, no, this will have more impact. You know, little things like that, you know, like hi-hat counts, you know, it's like 1, 2, 3, and then you cut the last one just to add a little more tension. Things like that, yeah. Depending on the band, I'll keep an acoustic guitar handy and help the vocalist work out harmony lines, that kind of thing, and just kind of figure out how the different notes being sung fit together, that sort of thing. And honestly, when I was doing one record, I found the vocalist needed a lot of help with his overall melodies, and because they were just a little bit weird, and I worked with him, and we bounced ideas off each other and got something cool. Always fun, getting a vocalist to relearn how to sing something differently, because they usually have to do it about 5 or 6 times until it finally clicks in and they learn it. Again, the acoustic guitar being around can be real handy because you can just play the notes and then they can sing to that and then learn it that way. So always something to keep in mind. An acoustic guitar in the studio can be extremely handy when it comes to recording vocals. For reference on that, go watch 1.5 Years of Life of Metallica and when Bob Rock is working out vocals with Hetfield. When they're doing Enter Sandman, you know, they're keeping one eye open. You know, that's what they're doing. Exactly that. They're playing the vocal melody on the acoustic, and that's what Hetfield's singing to. Pretty damn cool way to work.
In recording school, I was told that sometimes you just have to deal with musicians lighting up in the middle of a session around your expensive equipment, even at the professional level. How do you deal with musicians trying to get high in your control room?
Simple. There's the door. Get out. That's something I won't tolerate in my studio. It's like, I'm sorry, you're not going to pollute the fucking control room. I'll admit, you know, 20 years ago, I used to smoke in my own studio. I've quit for 10 years this month, actually. But when I moved into this place, I kept the smoking outside. It was just kind of like, oh, hey, I want to have a smoke. Okay, well, I'll join you. We'll go outside and have a smoke instead of, you know, getting all the nice gear fucked up. But I absolutely won't tolerate drug abuse in the studio ever. Period.
I've just seen the video of Post Malone playing a few guitars at Norman's Rare Guitars, and I can think of 2 thoughts that Glenn might have. He's still a talented artist. Why does he do that shitty music if he can play an instrument, for fuck's sakes?
Oh, I wanted to hit this one. You know, I was kind of didn't explain something clearly enough. Somebody made a comment where he was lumping Post Malone in with Danielle Bregoli and Lil Pump, whoever the fuck that guy is. And I made a comment, and I was more aimed at the latter two, Danielle and Lil Pump, as opposed to Post Malone. I know he's quite popular. Thing is, I don't know anything about his music, so if my comment was taken out of context, I want to retract that, because apparently a lot of you guys have said, no, this guy's actually a musician. And you know what? More power to him if he is. I've never really heard any of his stuff, so I can't say either way. I got a buddy of mine who actually does his monitor mixes, so I don't know, maybe at some point I can go check it out. That might be kind of cool. In the meantime, yeah, stay the hell away from Lil Pump and Danielle Bregoli, though. Ugh.
Running the gauntlet through 2 Guitar Center salesmen just to buy a pack of strings or a few picks equals why I hate going to places like Guitar Center.
Oh, I don't know. I know you guys give a lot of flack to Guitar Center, but honestly, we don't have it in Canada, so we have to be envious of Guitar Center. I've never really had a big problem with anybody at Guitar Center. Well, okay, maybe one time. But generally, most of the time, the people working at Guitar Center are pretty cool. Here's the thing, though. Gotta remember, they deal with a lot of idiots and people who can't play and that kind of shit. So just generally be cool, and you should do pretty well at Guitar Center. That whole I hate retail video, that was more aimed at the local big box electronics retailers than the people at Guitar Center. Like I said, I know a lot of people who work at Guitar Center. I've always enjoyed myself when I go there.
This is why I watch your channel. I can't stand watching a review by someone who you can tell is giving a stroke job to a company for their support.
Well, you know, I do try and give it to you guys straight, and most of the times it works out pretty well. There's definitely a couple companies who won't be working with me anytime soon. And you know what? I'm fine with that, because I'd rather call out bad gear for what it is than see you guys waste your money on something I know you're not gonna like.
Hey Glenn, might be a stupid question since I've never had a chance to work with real drums yet, but is there a reason you don't cut out parts where a respective drum is not playing? Say, toms are hit only every once in a while, but you have the entire track there. Cheers.
Well, you know, when I was first starting out, I used to, you know, edit all the tom tracks out by hand, and I put hours and hours and hours into it. These days, maybe not so much. My mic technique's gotten a little better. The mics I'm using are, you know, just super precise, and those are the Earthworks mics from the DK7 kit, the little ones with the goosenecks and whatnot. Those are great. They don't have a lot of, they don't pick up a lot of splash, so that's pretty cool. I can still do it from time to time if the drummer, you know, is just hitting the toms a little weak and other elements are a little too loud and whatnot. I can do it, but usually these days I can just do it visually. I've been doing it for so long. I just, you know, bam, 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 and edit that crap out. But 90% of the time these days, I'll just throw a gate up and it's fine. But you know what? There's absolutely nothing wrong with doing it by hand, doing it manually. Sometimes that's the best option. All right, everybody, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to check out the shirt, Shut Up and Practice Your Solo Face. It's going to be available for this week and this week only. If you have a guitar player in your band that's an arrogant prick, make sure you wear it around him, because he's going to love it. All right, until next time, Hasa Diga Boy.